Hello and welcome to News Centre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The death toll in the Sikkim flash floods has risen to 22. More than 100 people are missing. The state government has issued a fresh alert of another glacier lake burst in the northern part of Sikkim. The floods have also resulted in the displacement of multiple military equipment, including firearms, explosives, into the Teesta river. At least 2 people died in West Bengal's Jalpaiguri district after a mortar shell carried by the floodwaters exploded. But this is not the first time that we're talking about disasters of this magnitude. A parliamentary committee on water resources had flagged issues with glacier management and monitoring in March this year. Now, significantly, the committee raised concerns about early warning systems. It said that the present-day systems can make forecast for a single disaster only, and they are not capable of dealing with multiple disasters like mountainous hazards, glacial lake outburst floods, avalanches, cloudbursts and landslides. What we actually need, according to the committee, is a multi-hazard warning system. Secondly, the committee recommended that there should be a dedicated research body to study glaciers. The report noted that the Geological Survey of India, or GSI, has not conducted studies on volume loss of glaciers between 1950 and the year 2020, and it has not projected any estimate of glacial loss by the year 2100. There is also no study into potential causes for lake outbursts. The committee also emphasized that there are a plethora of agencies involved with Himalayan glaciers, and what we need is a single nodal agency to bring out synergies between departments. Also, there is an urgent need to conduct field-based studies on glaciers, and the current fund allocation is not really sufficient. The report highlighted that only a meager amount has been spent on glacier research by government departments in the last 5 years. Lastly, the committee stressed on the need for strengthening the National Disaster Response Force, as the agency was dependent on state governments for earth movers, heavy drills and JCBs, and that the force needed its own modern research and rescue equipment as well. They're also dependent on the Air Force for aircrafts. Yes, this is a story that we will continue tracking very closely, but let's go across to our guests this evening. We're now joined by Atul Karwal, Director General of National Disaster Response Force. Thank you for joining us on the program today, Mr. Karwal. Could you give us a sense of the destruction in Sikkim so far?
A lot of bridges have been destroyed, swept away. 2 dams have got severely damaged. Parts of the road have been washed away, resulting in civilian and army casualties. And also, about 3,000 tourists were stranded in the upper reaches of Sikkim.
Mr. Karwal, would you also be able to tell us about the damage to the NHPC power plants in the area?
Both the dams are on such sharp slopes that there is barely any space for a reservoir behind them. So the Teesta generates power through these dams as it flows through them, and there's barely any capacity for flood management behind the dam walls because the slope is very sharp. In Sikkim, it flattens out as the river reaches West Bengal. So the force of the water destroyed Teesta 3 to quite a bit, and the gates of Teesta 5 also were swept away because 2 gates were open, 3 were closed. By the time they tried to close the gates, open the gates, the person trying to open them and the vehicle, they got swept away because the dam was, water was flowing over the top of the dam. So those 2 dams have got severely damaged.
What about the Teesta Dam 6 that's under construction at this juncture?
Teesta 6, it flattens out a little bit, so Teesta 6 is not much damaged, but these 3 and 5 are severely damaged.
Right, so you're saying Teesta 3 and 5 are severely damaged. What do we know about the fatalities and the number of people missing?
The figures of fatalities would be best taken from the state government because they keep changing, as you mentioned. But NDRF has recovered about 12 bodies. The army has recovered the mortal remains of 7 of their personnel. So this is what we know as a fact.
How difficult is this relief operation, according to you, for the NDRF? Could you also give us a sense of the number of agencies on the ground?
The entire state government's resources have been put on the ground to help people to recover the last remains of people who have got killed in this disaster, to help the tourists who are stranded in the upper reaches of Assam, and for ensuring connectivity, both the road, the bridges, and the communication connectivity, which had gone completely off in the Chumthang and the north of Chumthang areas. Aside from that, the Army, Air Force are there. The BRO trying to repair the roads as soon as possible and make pontoon or Bailey bridges so that some traffic can start from there. The NDRF is there, the STRF is there, the local police, civil defense, home guards, everybody is there so that this situation can be brought back to normal as soon as possible.
And considering the scale of the damage caused, how long do you think it will take for things to come back to normal?
As far as the damage to bridges is concerned, that might take a few weeks before the traffic can be started. Dams might take much more time. And since this connectivity has been broken, many tourists who are stranded up there would have to be airlifted back towards Mangan and Gangtok. And thereafter, their vehicles may have to be brought back later.
So you mentioned tourists. How many tourists, civilians and army personnel are stranded there?
The army personnel have their deployment in those regions, so we can't call them stranded. In a similar manner, ITBP has posts in those areas. So they are there, they have their rations, etc. So they are all right. The civilian number of tourists is about 3,000. As I understand, about 550 vehicles approximately, about 100 motorcycles are there. So about 3,000 tourists are there who may have to be airlifted out of there and brought back to Mangan and to Gangtok.
Mr. Karwal, some parliamentary reports have suggested the need for better early warning systems and the need to strengthen the NDRF further. How the NDRF does not have its own equipment, it's dependent on state governments, it does not have its own aircraft support. Do you think these are urgent needs for the NDRF to perform better?
NDRF is getting all the resources it requires to strengthen itself and evolve as we face more and more disasters. In the last 5 years, we had 4 more battalions raised in NDRF. So we went from 12 battalions strong to 16 battalions strong. We have enough funds to procure any resources that we need, any equipment that we need. As far as the aircrafts are concerned, the Indian Air Force is very competent to give us wings wherever we need to reach as early as possible. As you saw in Turkey, the day that Turkey hit, we were there the same night. So we left the same night for Turkey. So I think resource-wise, NDRF is very well taken care of. You mentioned something about the early warning system. So there would be some learning from this, I'm sure, but as it is understood, it happened in the early wee hours of 4th when the South Lonak Lake had probably a massive piece of glacier which carved off and fell into the lake and caused a sudden surge of water to start flowing down the river, and that caused this kind of a havoc. Not much time was there, but early warning system did activate the dams, etc., where people tried to open the dam, understanding that a huge surge of water is headed down the mountain, and they were able to do some bit, but then some of them lost their lives in doing that. So I'm sure we would learn from this and evolve, but I don't see a major lapse, and also I don't see anything that NDRF is lacking. We are strong on the ground, and we should be able to do the best job that we can.
And finally, what is the biggest challenge for the National Disaster Response Force while operating on the ground currently?
It is the loss of connectivity, the road and the communication connectivity, the communicate to an extent because Army has satellite phones. We are carrying about 15 satellite phones so people can talk to their loved ones and show them of the well-being. The main issue here is weather because of that, my teams which are available in Bagdogra, they are unable to reach Chumthang by being airlifted there. The Air Force tried a sortie in the morning, and now also the weather is bad, because of which we are not able to reach the affected areas.
All right, we're now joined by the Chief Minister of Sikkim, Prem Singh Tamang. He's joining us on the phone line. Mr. Tamang, thank you very much for joining us. We would like to begin by asking you about the latest number of casualties on the ground, the number of those missing.
casualties up to this date, अभी casualties है, total number of casualties as per the morning report is 19. 19 is casualties and missing is 103. Missing person अभी तक missing.
Could you give us
Hello.
Yes, आपने बोला 103. I would also like to ask you, sir, could you give us a sense of the losses to the region, the kind of infrastructure damage that has taken place to Sikkim as a result?
अभी जितना भी नुकसान हुआ है, जो भी नुकसान हुआ, हजारों करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ है, क्योंकि अभी नॉर्थ सिक्किम का आंकड़ा हम लोग के पास नहीं है अभी, क्योंकि अभी नॉर्थ सिक्किम पूरा कट ऑफ है हमारा, जो भी रास्ता बंद है, टोटल कट ऑफ है, कम्युनिकेशन बंद है। तो आज ही हम लोग ने जो भारत सरकार के सहयोग से जो भी एयरलिफ्ट कल से ट्राई कर रहा है, लेकिन हो नहीं पाया वेदर के कारण। तो आज ट्राई किया, आज भी नहीं हुआ, तो कल अभी वेदर ठीक है, तो हो सकता है मैं I'll hope that it will be carry on tomorrow. तो अभी का जो है नुकसान तो गवर्नमेंट प्रॉपर्टी से लेकर प्राइवेट पर बहुत सारे हजारों करोड़ में नुकसान हुआ है। तो इसका मतलब सही आंकड़ा तो जो टेक्निकल टीम, जो एक्सपर्ट टीम जो करेगा, उसके बाद ही पता चलेंगे कितना का नुकसान हुआ है, कितना डैमेजेस हुआ है। यस
सर, कितने ब्रिजेस, कितने डैम, कितनी रोड्स डिस्ट्रॉय हुई हैं, अफेक्ट हुई हैं?
टोटल 13 ब्रिजेस टोटली वॉश आउट। जो भी टीस्टा रिवर के ऊपर था, टोटल रिवर 13 रिवर वाला ब्रिजेस वॉश आउट है। और एक टीस्टा स्टेज 3 का जो डैम है सिक्किम ऊर्जा लिमिटेड का, वो टोटली डैमेज हो गया, टोटल वॉश आउट हो गया, जो चुंगथांग में है उसका। अभी तक हम लोग में अफेक्टेड पॉपुलेशन है 22,464 इज अफेक्टेड फैमिलीज। एंड अभी तक हम लोग एवोकेट किया है टोटली 2,411 एंड रिलीफ कैम्प अभी हम लोग ने 26 चला रखा है गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से। और इसमें हम लोग का 4,000 से ज्यादा अभी हमारा रिलीफ कैम्प में अभी ठहर रहा है पूरा। और ये पूरा गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से हेल्प हो रहा है उनको, रहने का, खाने का, बैठने का, टोटल और कपड़ा जो भी देना है, टोटल हम लोग सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं उन लोगों को पूरा। हेलो
प्रेम सिंह तमांग जी, कई दिनों से, कई सालों से environmental activists concerns raise कर रहे हैं about infrastructure development in this region. They say that lot of expert advice has been ignored when it comes to construction in this area. What would you have to say?
जब ये तो जो कंस्ट्रक्शन हुआ है, जो डैम बना है, जो भी कंस्ट्रक्शन हुआ प्रीवियस गवर्नमेंट में बना है। तो हम लोग ने 2019 में मई 27 में हम लोग ने गवर्नमेंट बनाया। उसके बाद तो हम लोग ने कहीं ऐसा डैम नहीं बनाया, ऐसा कंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं कराया। लेकिन अगर ये तो बादल फाटने, क्लाउड ब्रस्ट होने के बाद जो लोनाक लेक है वहां पर गिर पड़ा, उसके बाद लोनाक लेक ब्रस्ट हो गया। उसके बाद ये जितना भी जो है फ्लड वहां पर आ गया। और सबसे पहले ये जो चुंगथांग का लेक है, टीस्टा स्टेज 3 का लेक को हिट कर दिया। और उसके बाद ये टोटल लेक टूट गया, जो ये डैम था वो पूरा डैमेज हो गया, पूरा वॉश आउट हो गया। उसके बाद पूरा वायलेंट होके, पूरा वाटर एक्यूमुलेट होके, जितना भी लो लेवल में था, जितना भी प्लेसेस था, जैसे सिंगताम, जंगू, जो देक्चू है, जो रंपू है, ये टोटल वॉश आउट हो गया पूरा। ऐसे हजारों करोड़ का नुकसान हो गया। इसका आंकड़ा हम लोग निकाल रहे हैं, हम लोग पूरा रेस्क्यू, अभी हम लोग का रेस्क्यू काम चल रहा है। और जितना भी अभी जो फंसे हुए हैं उनको हम लोग निकाल रहे हैं। इसमें से 22 जो आर्मी है, आर्मी पर्सनल भी, मतलब इसमें से 22 में मिसिंग था, 22 में 7 डेड बॉडी अभी मिल गए हैं, लेकिन 15 अभी तक भी लापता है। और उसमें से भी बहुत सारे 103 अभी मिसिंग में है पूरा।
सर, ये जो आपके तीस्ता 3, तीस्ता 5, तीस्ता 6 है, हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट है, कितना डैमेज हुआ है उनको?
और पूरा टीस्टा स्टेज 3 का जो डैम है, जो सिक्किम ऊर्जा लिमिटेड का डैम है, वो तो टोटल वॉश आउट हुआ है पूरा। लेकिन दूसरा जितना भी डैम है जो एनएचपीसी ने बनाया है, वो एनएचपीसी का डैम कुछ नहीं हुआ। तो इसीलिए ये जो प्रीवियस गवर्नमेंट ने बनाया था, ये टीस्टा स्टेज 3 का डैम, वो सब स्टैंडर्ड का था ये डैम। क्योंकि वो तो पहला उनको तो एक ही, मतलब एक जो डबल फोर्स नहीं था वहां पर, तो सिंगल फोर्स था ना। वहां से जो बादल फट गया, उसके बाद कोनाग लेक आ गया, उसके बाद उसी सिंगल मतलब फोर्स था। लेकिन वहां आने के बाद जो डैम फट गया उसके कारण जो नीचे आ गए वो डबल फोर्स हो गया। लेकिन डबल फोर्स के बावजूद भी जितना भी एनएसपीसी ने बनाया हुआ डैम था वो कुछ भी नहीं हुआ। लेकिन ये जो डैम हुआ बिकॉज ऑफ द सब स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ द वर्क, वो प्रीवियस गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सॉफ्टवेयर का काम किया था, इसलिए ये पूरा ब्रस्ट हो गया, वो पूरा डैमेज हो गया, 100% वर्स्ट हो गया ये।
All right, Mr. Tamang, thank you so much for joining us. You are saying that it was substandard work which led to the Teesta Dam being completely destroyed. Thank you for joining us, giving us the status on the ground. We're also joined by Anil Joshi, Padma Bhushan recipient and founder of the Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization. Thank you for joining us on the show today. I'd like to ask you, there are a lot of theories about what went wrong. The Parliamentary Committee had raised issues about early warning systems, how there is really no proper study into glacial management, glacial enlargement. What are some of the red flags that you would like to raise after this?
I would say that, unfortunately, we do not understand Himalayan systems. And especially I'm talking about the glaciers now. This is a new series of disaster that the Himalayan guys are facing now. The reason is the global temperature. We are not the reason, and the Himalayan people are not the reason for rising global temperature. But ultimately, one of the French study done was it revealed that 2000, when another century began, till 2020, the rate of melting of glacier have just become double. So what does it mean? The glacier, you can have a temperature down in the flat land, 1 degree, 2 degree rise. But even 0.5 degree centigrade temperature, when it rise, what do you think will happen to the glacier? Number one. Number two, most of the lakes now, which are in the foothills of the glaciers, are totally melted. It's not the story. If you remember the Kedarnath, that tragedy that had come, Chaurabari was the glacier which was very close to Kedarnath, that broke, and then the heavy rains, the flash flood came, and so disaster and devastation happened. Unfortunately, we have not learned lessons, because the high time, there are 2-3 things which really need to be understood. Number one, we do not have vulnerability mapping, including the glacier now. Earlier, we had been doing it, which are the vulnerable areas where the flash flood come in any case, where the soil is very weak, the rocks are not very well. That would have been earlier a little of it. But today, in the light of this climate change, the glaciers study have to be done, especially the lakes which are coming up. And you must have noticed that what happened in Himachal Pradesh. That was not the lake. The flash flood took the whole Himachal Pradesh. And the Kedarnath tragedy was again with the Chorabari lake, and this Sikkim tragedy is also the part of it. Let me tell you that the likely to be things what happened in Sikkim and the Kedarnath will keep on increasing. The reason is IPCC report, if you go into it, you will find that they have clearly mentioned anything, any climate change. We are looking at having the worst will be there, disasters will be seen in the Himalayan range and the mountains. It's not only this mountain system, but across the globe, the mountain system is suffering. We don't have carrying capacity. If we look into the losses...
we are running out of time.
It is the losses. It was because of two reasons.
But Mr. Joshi...
that we have been building. We unfortunately do not have ecological term included in that. You are blocking the route of the water, which in any case can come from either the lake or any flash flood. Fortunately, we are doing it. These are the couple of things we'll have to be very careful about it.
All right. Mr. Joshi, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for giving us your perspective. Valuable time here on CNBC-TV18. We're taking a short break, but coming up, flight tickets set to get costlier after surge in ATF prices. Indigo has already leveled fuel charges. Other airlines may follow suit. We discuss the impact with the Kappa's Parampreet Singh Bakshi on the other side.